Hi, my name is Jackson Straight, and this is my video presentation for my Drama of Scripture essay for biblical literature. And I have my notes behind me, and I will attach that to my submission just so you can see what I have. So, the drama of Scripture is introduced as a unified and progressively unfolding drama of God and God's action in history for the salvation of the whole world. It begins with God creating the world, where people live in harmony with each other and with creation, and we can see that with Adam and Eve and how they were naming, the animals and things of that nature, and how we are made to be the image bearers of God. But humanity ultimately disobeyed God when they ate of the fruit of good and evil, and that is what ultimately destroyed our relationship between God and one another. From this point, this is where God's redemptive plan comes into play, and with Jesus as being the main center of this mission, for the coming of God's kingdom and the restoration of God's rule over the world and over humanity mainly. But he starts by making a covenant with Adam, the formation of Israel, and the Jesus Christ and the promise of a Messiah. So Jesus fulfills this plan by being the perfect sacrifice, living the perfect life for us, and he dying on the cross to restore that relationship between humanity and God in the first place. And so the big theme, the Bible's main theme, is that God's mission is to restore and redeem creation. His kingdom spreads from the ends of the earth, and the story moves from creation to new creation. His final vision is that sin, death, and evil are gone, and humanity being fully restored as God's image bearers. So living with God forever in His presence from here on out. But there's a New and Old Testament connection. So the New Testament fulfills the Old Testament prophecies that are a part that just shows how it is just one unified narrative. And something I found on the internet, not according to the drama of Scripture that I know of, but what I looked up was that there are 63,779 cross references between both books of the Bible. That just goes to show. I just wanted to pull that up just to show how just how connected they are. But Israel, from this point, was called to reflect God and share His mission, but they too struggled just like humanity did. This is why Jesus had to represent all of us, and He did what we and Israel couldn't do, was live perfectly. Luke 24, verse 44 says that he said to them, "This is what I told you while I was still with you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms." So Jesus is saying all the scripture points to him. This is all essentially all the points that he just made. But the next part is the role of the church. After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, the church from here on out takes center stage. The church's mission is to build community, witness to the kingdom and the Spirit, and live as the new creation that Jesus died for. My personal connection is my role is to be the hands and feet of Jesus, because I often fall short and tend to live in the shame. But that's not why Jesus died. He died so he could take that sin and shame away, because he has called me to be his son and to spread his love and grace. The big takeaway for me personally is just seeing how connected both the Old Testament and New Testament are. Because growing up in church all my life, I have tended to disregard the Old Testament just because it didn't make that much sense to me, and it was easier to understand, the New Testament. But I've realized as I've gotten older and able to understand is just how connected they both are. For me, I've really been able to advance my relationship with God in ways I never thought, because now I can understand how connected and how unified the Bible is, especially through this course. And I was even talking to a friend the other day just about something from this class, something that I learned from this class in terms of, how unified the Old Testament really is. And so for me, it is really changing my life, especially with this course, being able to understand really how connected everything is. But one question remains unclear for me, and that's how can we reach future generations in this constantly changing culture. We see a lot of media trying to take stuff down, and thankfully, we have people who stand up to culture and against culture, being able to preach the word and be ourselves. It's just, for me, it's not necessarily, I don't have an issue in terms of, like, I know we're going to reach that, but it's unclear in terms of how we can continue to reach them with this constantly changing culture, or at least more or less what it's going to look like. I know we're going to reach the next generation, but it's more or less how are we going to what is that going to look like. But one truth never changes, and that is God's mission to build his kingdom.